All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you, wherever you are in this beautiful world. Welcome to our Inner Circle Live pre-New York session. I'm your host, Ryan Carthage. We'll be joined shortly by my awesome partner, Mr. Benny Allen. Hope everybody's doing well today on this beautiful Tuesday. As always, let's turn off all distractions, grab a pen and paper, let's take lots of notes, and let's make sure that we participate and engage. And as always, want to start our day off by taking massive action. That action stands for accepting all possible losses before entering a trade, preparing you for the outcome, setting yourself, body, mind, and spirit, ensuring a balanced approach to trading, trusting your education, strategy, trade skills, and intuition. Imagine your trade success materializing, obeying your trading strategy, avoiding decisions based on greed or fear, and never looking back or stopping once your trade has commenced. All right. We will get down to business. If everybody can hear me okay, drop me one in the chat and we will get things underway. All right, perfect. Appreciate it. And let's do this. All right, let's hop over to trading economics, get some news in, see what's happening around the world as we kick off this week. Oops. All right, um, tariffs are in the news again. Tariffs are in the news again. All right, European stocks fall for a third day. Major European boroughs decline on Tuesday, with both the SOX 50 and the STOXX 600 slipping 0.2% as uncertainty over tariffs continue to weigh on investor sentiment. All right, the looming August 1st deadline is the for the U.S. to begin imposing a 30% tariff on EU imports is approaching, and no agreement has been reached so far. Meanwhile, traders are closely watching corporate earnings, including those from SAP. Okay, so watching the tariff situation as we get close to the August 1st deadline. Do those tariffs get implemented, right? Or is there another scenario where it's just an open-ended threat, right? So we'll continue to watch that and the back and forth that it causes in the market. Okay. You got steel. Steel futures in China rose 3,170 per ton in July, the highest in over 3 months, as the outlook for lower output and public expenditure in construction paired the view of an oversupplied steel market. Okay. Chinese policymakers vow to reform the industry policy to further pledge to erase overcapacity. Such steel policy would aid margins for furnace and mills, as the ongoing property crisis in China and the ongoing momentum of protectionist trade policies from key steel importers erode demand, right? So you got an oversupply and you have things being put in place to cut down on the demand, right? So it's going to kind of exacerbate that oversupply situation a little bit. Okay. Um, Look at steel. Um, so keeping that in mind, right? Previously, major producer Bow Steel stated it expects national output to fall by 50 million tons per year. In the meantime, prices were supported by announcement of China $1.2 trillion hydropower plant project. Okay, building power plants, right, to produce energy. Um, in addition to supporting bids for, excuse me, bids for ferrous metals, the project and signaled that the Chinese government will continue to use infrastructure projects as a way to stimulate its slowing economy and counter the impact of its property crisis, right? So we'll continue to watch steel there and how it bounces back and forth. Um, gold, gold fell to around 33.80 per ounce on Tuesday as investors book profit after prices touched a 5-week high early in the session amid lingering uncertainty ahead of President Donald Trump's August 1st tariff deadline. All right, so you see the bounce back and forth in the market as these deadlines come, and then we'll see how the market responds as they go. Okay. The EU is scrambling to reach a trade agreement with the US as the deadline approaches, but the bloc is also readying its counterattack in case no deal is reached. Earlier this month, the US threatened to impose a 30% tariff on EU goods. On the uh, monetary policy front, European Central Bank is expected to hold rates steady at 2% later this week after a series of cuts, while the U.S. Federal Reserve policy decision is scheduled for next week. Right? Um, we've been talking about how the EU is at the end of their um, rate cutting cycle, right? And what that looks like. So with them holding rates where they are, right, they're going to pause, see how the market responds, and they may hold rates where they are for a while. Okay. Um, which will start to support that euro a bit more. Um, mm, mm, mm. Investors now await comments from Jerome Powell later today for future insights into the central bank's policy direction. Okay, so we'll monitor the monetary policy and how it impacts gold and the euro and the dollar. Brent crude futures dropped more than 1% to around 68.3 per barrel on Tuesday, marking a third consecutive session of losses as President Trump's uncertainty over trade negotiations fan fears about demand outlook. Investors are closely watching EU-US trade talks. All right, this is a big deal. Right, it's the third time we've seen that in an article. Um, this week, they seek to strike a deal before August 1st when they threaten to hit most of the bloc's exports with 30% tariffs. At the same time, the bloc is the the bloc is stepping up preparations to strike back if the two sides fail to secure a deal. Right, supply side pressures have also emerged as OPEC Plus unwinds production cuts. Data released on Monday showed Saudi Arabia crude exports rose to a 3-month high in May. Elsewhere, Iran announced on Monday that it will resume nuclear talks with European powers this week in an effort to revive its 2015 nuclear deal and avoid a reimposition of international sanctions. All right. So we shall see how things go with those nuclear talks. And we'll see where things go with the oil, right? There's a lot of downside pressure with the increase of output, right? And with the fear of decreased demand. Okay. As we move toward the end of the summer, let's watch and see where things go. Okay. So that's where we are overall from a fundamental perspective. Over to the calendar. Today we have Governor Bailey speak. Well, Governor Bailey spoke at 5:15. right? Folks watching Fed Jerome Powell. There's a conference happening. Um, Integrated Review of Capital Framework for Large Banks. It's a conference held by the Federal Reserve in Washington that's happening today. So Jerome Powell will be speaking there. Folks are watching to see what's happening. We got Richmond Manufacturing Index coming in later today. Tomorrow, we have Bank of Japan core CPI year on year, existing home sales for the United States, crude oil inventories, and you got your flash PMI estimates for the Aussie. And then Governor Bullock speaks at 11 o'clock tomorrow night. And then on Wednesday, you got a slew of PMI data, right, coming in out of the Eurozone and out of the UK ahead of the rate statement for the Euro. Okay, and you got CPI data for the Canadian dollar and unemployment claims. Then you got press conference from the ECB, right? And Christine Lagarde. We'll see what she has to say about them potentially holding those rates. And then you got flash PMI for the dollar, right? So Thursday is our busy day, right? So we could see the market bounce back and forth before then, right? And Friday is a little bit slower. You got retail sales, core durable goods orders for the United States and the UK. Okay, so that's where we are overall, fundamentally. Any questions from the team?
I have a question. Last night New Zealand had a trade balance. Can you explain that to me?
Uh, Trade balance. So what's the difference, right? So read it here, right? Measures the difference in value between import and exported goods, right? So to make that simpler, 1 second. Give me 1 second, everybody. Um, and so what that I'll give you the technical breakdown and then I'll give you a simple breakdown. But it basically that report there was a small surplus of New Zealand on the New Zealand side compared to the dollar. Um, and if that report comes in below expectation, right, below the expected surplus, it signals that exports underperformed and imports, things coming in, uh, that demand strengthened. If there's a worsening in the annual deficit, um, let's see. So deficit of negative 4.37 billion indicates import volume outpaced the export growth. So they were importing more than they were sending out, pointing to a cooling in the global demand and weaker commodity prices. Okay.
You went silent, Ryan.
Oh, shoot. I'm sorry. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
My bad. I apologize. Um, and I'm just in here chatting away. Um, so the trade balance report, I'll give you the technical piece and I'll give you kind of more detail. But um, below below expectation on the surplus in June, right? That signals that exports underperformed and import demand strengthened, right? Giving it suppressing the surplus. And this is compared to the United States dollar. And so a deficit of 4.3 4.3 billion indicates um, import volumes have outpaced the export growth, pointing to a cooling in global demand and weaker commodity prices. Okay. And so simple breakdown of this is exports, right? What New Zealand sells to other countries, dairy, meat, wine, wood. Imports, right? What New Zealand buys from other countries, cars, electronics, fuel, as examples. So the trade balance is the exports minus the imports. That gives you what that balance is. Okay. And so if it exports more than it imports, right, you have a surplus, which is good, right? They're sending more things out, meaning other countries are buying more from them, right? If it imports more than it exports, there's a deficit, right? Not ideal because, right, they're buying more from other countries than other countries are buying from them. Okay. So that's uh that's what we see. And so that report in June 2025, New Zealand had a small surplus of 142 million, right? And this is much lower than expected, right? Much lower than expected of basically 1 billion is what the expectation was there. Okay. Over the last 12 months, New Zealand had a big deficit of 4.3 billion. That means the country bought a lot more than it sold. Okay. So not as much coming into not as much money coming into the country, right, by people buying from them as opposed to them buying from other countries. And so, some key points on why this is happening. There's more global demand for New Zealand goods, right? Dairy and meat, and it's starting to slow, right? As Donald Trump inputs these tariffs on countries, right? Less buying globally for New Zealand goods, right? And they're importing more. So New Zealanders may be buying more from overseas, fuel, technology, machinery, right? So how this impacts the New Zealand dollar, right? When a country runs a deficit, its currency usually gets weaker, right? So we can see a weaker New Zealand dollar. And right, because that makes sense. A weaker New Zealand dollar, meaning they are exchanging the New Zealand dollar for other currencies because they're buying from everybody else, opposed to other countries exchanging their dollar for New Zealand dollars and buying from New Zealand. Okay. So um, we could see a weakening in the New Zealand dollar because of that. Um, and we see the New Zealand dollar losing some value to other currencies because the country is spending more abroad than it's earning. Right? Does that make sense, Joy?
Yep.
Answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Good question. All right. So, if no other questions, we'll slide over to the charts, take a look at the dollar. Got a few things I want to cover this morning. Um, DXY is still sitting in this 118, 127 zone, right? Still lingering here, trying to figure things out. All the back and forth tariff talks. Um, all of those things, right? Still got pressure on the dollar overall, right? We're still headed down, but we're waiting to see if we get a retracement before that continuation to the downside, right? So if these tariffs get implemented, we could see the dollar rise and then come back down, right? We got stochastic sitting in that buy zone. Okay. Waiting to see what happens on the daily time frame. Here on the 4, we had that 618 retracement, right? And we're making our way to the downside. But again, right, do we get a pullback first before we get that continuation down, get into that D extension? Okay. So pressure on the dollar, but we're looking for a retracement still, as things bounce back and forth with tariffs. Once we get something that happens there, then we can see, right, some movement occur. And Jerome Powell speaks today, so that could give us a potential catalyst ahead of the tariff situation. Okay, so that's the DXY. Take a quick look at our indices. S&P 500 still making highs, right? We're watching the 6,500 number closely, right? We want to see the market continue to move to the upside. We're looking at potentially a pullback and retesting the previous highs, but I don't know that we get that, right? I think we continue to make these small moves to the upside until we get to that 6,500 level, and then we'll look for a correction, right? You got the stochastic coming out of that buy zone here and pushing to the upside, okay? Coming down to the 4, down to the 4. You got an 80-20 here, but like I said, I think we get to these higher levels first, 6,400 and then 6,500 before we see that retracement. Okay. Um, so that's on the 4 coming down to the 1. You got an 80-20 here as well. Excuse me. But again, I think we get to excuse me, the D extension, which is the same as the 4 hour, 6408 before we get a move back down. Okay. So that's the S&P 500. Continue to track to the upside. Okay. NASDAQ, also similar, moving long. Wanted to see a retracement. I don't believe we'll get it, right? We pushed into the zone here and we're continuing to track to the upside, making new highs. Okay. So that D extension is in sight, 23,904. Okay. So we'll continue to watch as these continue to track higher, right? The market is really kind of unfazed, right? Is seeking these levels, okay? Seeking these levels. So we'll continue to monitor that as it continues to roll. Uh, just checking so we had a larger fib here, right? But continue to move to the upside on the NASDAQ, right? Down on the 4, you got a fresh AB boundary and we're pushing to the upside, okay? D extension on the 4 hours at top of this level, right? That'll put us in a 118, 127 zone on the 4. Could set us up for a retracement once that daily D extension is achieved. Okay. Um, this is our 4 hour D extension. They're at 24,554. Okay. So got some movement to go to the upside, but could push us into this 80-20 zone. Um, and that daily D extension to give us a nice setup for a retracement and then a continuation law. Okay, so we'll watch that there on the 4 as it develops, and then on the 1, similar to that 4, right? Push to the upside to get to that daily D extension, put us in an 80-20 scenario on the 1 hour as well, which could set us up for a nice retracement coming back down to retest these previous highs here. Okay, so we'll watch as price gets higher in the zone around that high 2300s. Okay, so looking for this to continue to push to the upside, like so. Okay, questions on the NASDAQ. Oh, all right. US 30 caught on a bit of a holding pattern here, right? But overall, we're moving to the upside. Okay, overall moving to the upside. Fresh AB boundary pressing sideways. See if we get into this $4,600 range and give us an 80-20 here. I don't see necessarily any correctness coming in the short term, but we'll see. We'll continue to watch the market and how it moves. Okay, coming down to the four, not quite in that 118, 127 zone, right? So I am looking for another push to the upside. We got earnings this week. So some of that pressure, some of these companies could kind of make things a little subdued, but looking for the price to push to the upside still before we get a retracement. Okay, so watching that one there as we just hover around that B boundary area. Right, on the 1 hour, we do have an 80-20, but I think we push higher first before we get that retracement. Okay. So that's just a quick run through of the indices and where we are there. Okay. Um, let's only have a couple currencies that I want to take a look at. This Aussie yen, right? This inverted head and shoulders pattern playing out beautifully. We're coming back down now, right, to retest this neckline here, right, 95,625, okay, with that yen just continuing to weaken. They had some elections come in. Ishbia retained his position, and he's not the most popular. So we'll continue to watch and see how that impacts the yen. But I think we see the yen continue to weaken, and we see this push to the upside. Okay, so coming back and retesting previous resistance levels here. Okay, down on the four, right? You see we're headed to that D extension. We got just shy of a 50% retracement here. That matching extension is at $99. Okay, so we'll watch this level here, and I'll bring this down to the lower time frames. Okay, so we'll watch that level. $99 is our target ultimately on this 4 hour time frame. Okay, coming down to the one, boom. Right, we wanted that retracement. We got at 80-20. We pushed into that 118, 127 zone. There's the collapse. Came down below that 50% level, right? Previous resistance serving as future support. We got a double bottom. We press down there again, right? We'll see if this level holds and give us that move back to the upside, getting us to the extension on the 1 hour at 98, and then also that D extension on the 4 hour at 99, right? So we got a nice setup here. Even if we push a little bit deeper into the zone, we got price holding here. Okay, I'll take a look. Got price holding here. So we'll see if we can get price to turn over, continue making its way to the upside in favor of this of the Aussie in this case, and a move long, right? So our 80-20 played out beautifully. Now we're looking for that C to D push. Okay. Now we're looking for that C to D push here. All right. Boom. Boom. All right. That's what we're looking for on this Aussie yen. C to D move to the upside. Okay. Joyce said on the 15. Let's see what we got. Not there. I just hovered around the B boundary area. Looks like we just missed that 382 level. So I don't have much right there, Joy.
Flip your fib because I think I was since we was looking
Run it
for
off
up
for more.
modes.
I got you.
Yeah. And I may have just did it off that last leg.
Okay, we'll run and see. Come here. But that scenario there, you mean off this low right here?
Yeah, I've been running it off the last leg just to get the I don't know, just to gauge what price will probably retrace to.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, that took that one out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that took that out last night. Yeah.
Because I was just looking at because of the like it keep double tapping. It keep coming down tapping.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was paying attention to. And then on a higher time frame, it kind of looked like, well, no, I kind of missed. I thought it was a double bottom last night.
Just
Yeah.
trying to get there. Yeah. It's making that move down there. Yeah. And so we see that also just on that higher time frame level on that on the 1 hour, sorry. Right. You see that also right here. Yeah. So we're watching the same thing. Watching the same thing. Right. That range right there. Seeing how price reacts. So we're headed down. We'll see if that level holds and we get that reversal. Good work though. Good work. Any other questions on this Aussie yen? No? All right, cool. Um, take a look at the Swiss yen. Continue to monitor this one, right? Continue to make all-time highs, explosive moves. Do we get a pullback to retest these highs? Okay, that's what I'm looking for. We got to the D extension on the monthly time frame. On the weekly time frame, we're making our way, right? 618 retracement, matching extension there at 193,568, right? But do we get a retracement to come back and retest the previous highs here on that 180 level? Okay, that's what I'm looking for. Just slight pullback, low price for continuation. Okay, so on the daily time frame, again, we're making our way. We got a fresh AB boundary here. Okay, so a retracement would give us a shallow retracement, push to that 193, give us 80-20 and some higher time frame extension levels. Stochastic pushing down into that buy zone. Okay, so come down to the 4. We have an 80-20 here. Okay, I don't know that we get all the way back down, but we'd like a retracement to come. Okay, so we'll watch and see how this progresses here. But we got an 80-20 in there on the 4. We'll see if we're able to break that cloud and start making this move back down. Okay, down on the 1. This is more of where I'm watching here on the 1 hour, right? Looking to see if we can get this move back down here to this 182 level. Okay, we get that move back down to the 182 level on the Swiss yen. That's 300 pips to the downside, right? And then we can monitor things from there to see if we get that deeper push. 176 would be a stretch, right? But if we get a deeper push down in this 180 level, okay, we come back to this 4, that 180 level, right? Still above those previous highs there, though, okay? But around that B boundary on the 4 is that 180 level, okay? So Can we get a retracement there and then that push to continue to the upside? Okay. So that's what I'm watching. I'm really watching it here to see if we're able to get a break of this trend line and uh and a nice move to the downside. Like so. Right. We got a consolidation happening there. Put on the outermost point of that consolidation. Okay. So I'm watching that one there from that perspective. If we don't get it, it won't surprise me just because of the state of the yen right now. Um, it's kind of a perpetual state, um, but that's what I'd be looking for is that trend line break and a move down, getting back to around this 180 range. Okay, so keep my eyes on that. That's the Swiss yen. Are there any questions here? Nope. All right, cool beans. Um, week before last, we talked about ASML, right? ASML um, in the chip sector, right? Um, and we did our full breakdown. We know where it is. We know some of the headwinds that they have, right, regarding um, tariffs and slowdowns from some of their major buyers, right? Um, and so they are kind of a sole supplier in that EUV space, right? Just how they make the chips and the technology provided to make those small chips. So we're looking for a retracement, and we got it right. Beautiful 80-20 here on the daily, pushed up to that 825.08 level, and you see the collapse, right? And so we're getting that 80-20 move to the downside here, just shy of that 382. So we're getting that pullback that we're looking for, right? As we broke down that chart. So now I'm waiting for this low price around 600, 670, right? I'm looking for that low price for my buying opportunity here, right? So we did the work. We understand the investment. We understand the value that it has in its sector, right? We understand the financials of it. And now we wait for it to align technically. And it's coming in our zone, right? So that stochastic pushing down out of that sell zone. Okay. Um, so we're on the move. So let's watch for pullbacks and continuations to the downside here, right? And be patient. Wait for this buying zone. Um, right? Those trading options and those kind of things, right? You can set some limit orders. Okay. On the on the portfolio development side, right? You can also set some limit orders to buy at these prices. But this is what I'm looking at, and this is what I'm looking for my investment entry here. This is going to be a long-term hold for me, right? Going to be a long-term hold for me as price pushes down into the 670 range. Okay, so that's on the daily time frame. We'll come down to the 4, right? And you have that 80-20 on the 4. We're already at that 382 level there, but right, beautiful double top and the push down, right? And this was a gap down on last Wednesday, right? Boom, and a move to the downside. Okay, and so fundamentals and technicals are aligning as price continues to move here, right? Setting us up for a beautiful opportunity as we get to this low price. Okay. So we'll come down to the 1 and we're aligned on all three levels, right? 80-20 on the daily, 4 hour and the 1 hour, and we're all looking at that same area on the chart for that retracement to come. Okay, so keep your eyes peeled on ASML as price continues to move, right? And move to the downside. Keep your eyes peeled here for an opportunity to buy as things get as things continue to move to the downside, right? And we'll continue to watch the tariff situation out of the EU, right? Because that'll threaten some of the business out of the Eurozone for the chip maker. So we'll watch that as it develops as we get closer to August 1st. But right, overall, we are in a good position, right, to make these buys and a move to the upside. Okay. So that's ASML, right? Things are aligning based on our analysis from a technical and fundamental perspective. Okay. Questions here? Oh, all right. Cool beans. TSM Semiconductor. Beautiful. Right. TSM Semiconductor. Another one that we broke down from a fundamental perspective. It's on the rise. Got to that D extension on the daily. Now we're looking for a reset. Okay. Now we're looking for a reset, a pullback, a low price, whatever that looks like for TSM Semiconductor, because they're on the move, right? New highs, new highs. Okay. What do I have here? I got smaller fibs in there. My bad. There we go. So, sorry, I was looking at a wrong fib there, but still in this 80-20 zone, right? What I was looking at was a sub fib running off the low, which we'll look at on the lower time frame. But 80-20 here as well. Okay, so do we get a retracement to come here? Right? Potential tariff situation, tariff conversations, right? That could cause retracement. So we'll see, right? But we're sitting in that 118 and 127 zone. We continue to make new highs, right? This one could overrun and just continue to run long here. Especially things happen with Nvidia and some of the others. But would love to see a low price come here before we continue this run to the upside. Okay, coming down to the 4, this is where that sub fib came in. This is where that sub fib came in, right? We got a retracement happening there on the 4. Okay, so a low price in theory could look like 225. Okay, maybe we don't get a deep low price on the daily time frame, but can we get down to this 225 support level here, right? Previous B boundary on the last fib, give us a low price, a low entry price, right? You see that stochastic moving down, right? Can we get price to move down with it before we get that move long, right? So I'm looking around between 227 and 230 as potential buying zone for this one. Um, but I'm waiting patiently for low prices on these and dollar cost averaging in the event that we don't get it, right? But looking for long-term positions on these as these, I believe, will continue to run long for quite some time as we're just in the beginning stages of this AI transition. So, tons of development still to happen, tons of evolution still to happen in the market. So, watching this closely for that move there. We are getting the retracement. I'm looking to see if we can get another push lower. Um, for my ideal zone. But watching that there on the 4 hour for a deep retracement and C to D move there. On the 1 hour, the look is similar. Similar to that 4, right? So looking for that retracement there. So still being patient on these. Got small positions in the portfolio, right? As we got to a lower price, right? So I got some small positions in this range. And if we get a deeper push there, right, I'll add some positions to that as well for a longer term move to the upside. All right. Questions on TSM Semiconductor? All right, cool beans. Another one to keep our eyes on. Tesla is on the move back to the upside. We got the retracement that we wanted, right? We got the retracement that we wanted here, and we got another push down into the zone, and now we're moving to the upside. So we're looking for pullbacks and continuations long on Tesla for the for the foreseeable future, in my opinion. Okay. Um, so looking long there, come down to the four, right? You'll see this a little bit more clearly. Okay. You got a second trend line break here, right? Boom. On the 10th, and you got the takeoff, right? So we're moving to the other side. We'll look for pullbacks and continuations long on Tesla. Okay, so we come down to the one, and there's your 1 hour fib, and you see it beautifully, right? 786 retracement. You see the reversal, and we're off. Okay, so if you want to run the sub fib off the low here, boom. Okay, you got a 382 push there, so we're tracking 340 as the next level on the sub fib, and overall on that 1 hour, 380 is the D extension there. Okay, so um, continue to look for pullbacks and continuations on Tesla to the upside. Okay, so keep your eyes peeled there. Um, haven't broken down Micron yet, but we will. This one's in a beautiful spot here. So I broke this chart down last week before I got sick, but we got some nice pullbacks here. Micron Electronics, right? So we got a pullback here. We got to the 382 level. I'd love to see it push deeper here. May not get that though, but because we're sitting at previous highs here, right? So watching this one closely, if we break this level and move down, I'd love it to give me a deeper price here around that $100 level. It'd be ideal. But I understand I might not get my wish here, which is cool. Got a nice retracement here on the four, right? We had an 80-20, boom, move down, right? Wick that 382 there. Can we get another leg to the downside to put us in our sweet spot? Right. So watching this one closely. Tomorrow I'm going to break this one down for us, and we'll talk about what it is and how it moves and why it's valuable. But in some key zones here, right? In some key zones. So um, so again, um, the name of this one is Micron Technology. Okay. Stock symbol MU. Take a look at it. Like I said, we'll break it down tomorrow, but it's also in that semiconductor industry. Okay. Um, so so I got it in this basket that I'm watching here. So but still would love to see another pullback here into the zone. Okay. Um, to the one, we're already down into that sweet spot, but I'd love to see the A taken out if I get my wish. Okay. But watching closely here for opportunities. But right, going back and looking, beautiful 80-20 here, shallow retracement 118 to 127 zone, and we got the breakdown, right? So can we get one more leg down? Stochastic coming out of that sell zone. We get one more leg down, and then our reversal and our run back long. Okay. So we got some higher price opportunities here as well that I'm looking forward to. So, but looking for a low price. It'd be beautiful to get down to that $100 range. Um, I believe it'd be good value. Um, really, really valuable at that price. So, Micron Technologies, looking for that one to run to the upside at some point, but would love a lower price first. Okay. Questions here? No? Okay. All right. So that's there. And then I want to look at, whoops. I want to look at Walmart, not Walmart. I keep saying Walmart. Microsoft. Microsoft is facing some issues right now. Um, with cybersecurity, right? Facing some issues with cybersecurity. Let's see if it's back here on the front page. Right? Stopping hackers from wreaking havoc, right? We got some major breaches that are happening in their SharePoint technology, their SharePoint platform. So they're trying to prevent uh, issues. And a lot of large organizations, a lot of large organizations use SharePoint to hold their data, right? To hold their data. So if we get a breach there, that could call for some major concerns. Okay. So let's break Microsoft down real quick. Right, we're at some all-time highs, and I think we'll continue to run overall. But does this situation give us an opportunity for a pullback? That's what I want to see. Do we get the opportunity for a pullback and a low price to get back long on Microsoft? Okay. So that's on the monthly time frame. We'll come down to the weekly. Those are the same there. I'll put in this weekly high here, right? Previous resistance. See if it'll serve as future support, right? So pull back down to that level will be beautiful and ideal. As you see, that's what it's done, right? You had a previous high here, broke it, came back to retest it. Those ABCD waves, right? High there, broke it, came back to retest it. So can we get that again? High there, we broke it. Can we come back and retest it? Um, yep, that's why those 50 million updates, Joy. Yep, they've been pushing like crazy over the past 2, 3 days. Um, so definitely why you're getting those patch updates. Um, for sure. So that's where we are there on the weekly. On the daily, we got some daily support levels that we'll watch and see here. Okay. Um, boom. But that's really it there, right? So now let's come back to these lows. Um, I'm curious what it looks like on the monthly. So we'll run a fib on each level just to see where things are. Right? So boom, right? Monthly time frame, we got a D extension hit. Okay. That's key. D extension hit on the monthly stochastic coming out of that buy zone. Okay. Coming out of that buy zone. So monthly D extension hit. Come down to the weekly again. Weekly, we got a 618 retracement just shy of that 786 level. Just shy of that 78, maybe 344.73. Yeah. So just shy of that. So we got a 618 retracement. Our matching extension on the weekly is here. We'll change this blue. That's our weekly extension. That's where we're headed. 567. Okay. 567 on the weekly time frame is the next extension level. So we'll come down to the daily. We'll see where we broke down there. Plot these out. This one, we're going to highlight this low. We'll make it red. So on the daily time frame, boom. All right, so this is where we run our daily fib off this low. Boom. Look what we got. 80-20. 80-20 on the daily. Okay. 80-20 on the daily. Trying to turn over. Can we get a push down here? Right. Potential evening star pattern, right? To give us that move down, that weekly resistance level, just shy of a 50% retracement, right? So can we get this 80-20 play out to the downside here and a nice retracement on Microsoft? Give us a low price and a retest of those highs to get back long and head to that weekly extension at 567. Right. So I'm watching that there closely. Come down to the four, right? Same alignment on the four, 80-20 there, right? Just pushed into that zone there. Okay. Can we get that move to continue coming down? Okay. Can we get that to continue to come down? Shrink this up. Boom. Okay. Can we get that move down? Give us a low price to get long on Microsoft, right? Data breaches happening, hackers going crazy, right? Can we get this low price here? Down on the one. We'll run this fib again. Boom. 80-20 on the 1 hour as well. So we got alignment daily, 4 hour, 1 hour. Okay. Daily, 4 hour, 1 hour. Got the weekly headed to the D extension. We got a monthly D extension already achieved, right? Can we get a move down? That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. So let's watch Microsoft and see what happens here. Okay. Questions. Questions on Microsoft. Oh, cool. If we can get this retracement again, another good value play here, right? If we get a nice low price, retest those previous highs, right? With price expected around 567 over the long term, could be a nice buy, right? Right, could be a nice buy. If you want to play the 80-20, if you get your confirmations, right, you can play that as well to the downside, making some money going both ways on Microsoft. Questions, questions. Right, these are all my thoughts, my opinions um, on where these stocks are. Questions on anything that we covered this morning? Oh, all right, cool deal. Good people.
I had a question, Ryan,
Oh, yes, ma'am. What's happening?
related to so Smart Trader, you see at the bottom where you have the trading component there, the demo.
Uh-huh.
Are you aware? Because I tried looking to see if you can actually like put money in a brokerage account. I remember you were saying that you could trade. I'm not sure if you used to trade the demo or if you used to trade through another platform, but
So I did at one point, but the brokers are limited, and this was a while ago, so that might have also changed.
yeah,
But a while ago I did have I forget the broker that I had, but it was a US broker.
okay.
Yeah, it is very limited in the options of brokers that you can
Yeah, but the
have
ones that
there.
they have there now, they said not available in the US. So.
Hmm.
So I don't know if you can remember, and then maybe I'll try. But it's kind of handy.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. Um, I'll go back in my notes and find it for you.
Okay.
But it's like I said, the list is limited.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah, but you're welcome. All right, good people. We will be back at it tomorrow morning. We're gonna do a breakdown of another stock in the tech sector. We'll break it down. We've looked at the chart, but we'll break it down, get some details, some background on where it is, why it is, where it is, and what the long-term projections are. See if it's something from a fundamental perspective that'll be good to add to our portfolios as we looked at it from a technical perspective, and it's in alignment with what we like to see. So, you all have a phenomenal Tuesday. We'll see you in the morning. Peace.